Good afternoon, YouTube, and welcome to the special edition of Fantasy Forecast GPP lineup building. Okay, as you can see from the lineups that I have set up here, you can see a spread set up. I'm going to try to focus this in a little more. I don't know if I can, but it's about as good as it's going to get. All right. So what we have here is, you can see how I'm spread out to enter a GPP. Now, what you'll notice first off is that out of my $30 in entry fees, and let's go up here to my cash line. My cash line has my double up entry that I ran for Fantasy Forecast a couple minutes ago. If you can't see the clock, it's 3:57. It's 3 minutes before lock. These are about to disappear, and I'll have to move on to them in the regular slate. However, I have a couple quintuple ups along with it. I do believe in my lineups, and that will pay $20 if it wins. It's as much better than a $4 win on a double up. And I view these things like lottery tickets. So even my cash lineup, I run those. But you'll notice I only run one entry in the shot and one entry in the $1 SWAT, and that's it. For my other lineup, my actual GPP lineup, this is the spread that's running. And the spread is far much more intense here. You'll see there's 3 single entry $1 mini dribblers. And the reason why is because they're single entry and the field is much more limited and small. So a $250 payout of the top 60% is 2.5 times your money, and it goes up to 4 or 5 times real fast. The top is $30. So whereas in a big one, like these blocks and single entries, you can get up to like the top 1,000 spots, and it's not even paying but triple your money. So this is a $2. You need to land number 800 to even get more than, 3 times your money? So to triple your money and 5 times your money, which is what a quintuple pays, you need to be in the top 400. Think about that. That's the top 3, less than the top 3%, but they're paying quintuples of the top 18%. That's why quintuples are so popular to play. And you'll see that I have a bunch of quintuples. I've got 5 of them lined up, ready to go. So this is a $50 payday if my GPP hits just off the quintuples for $10. If my single entries land kind of high, 65, 70, who knows? Sky's the limit. If you hit the top, it's $90 more dollars. Plus that's $140 just right there. Off of 30 in entry fees, and really 22 of it is here if you count this up. The other $8 or so is spread up in the cash games. This is how you really run an effective lottery ticket. If you guys have ever played a $20 scratcher before, you need to give yourself the chance to actually get $100 back, and that's what these quintuple ups give me. Dribblers, single entries, the shot obviously, because it pays so high if you happen to land so close to the top. The problem is that it's so difficult to have a differentiated entry. When the pros can enter that 150 times, the orange multi-symbol, and they can only enter the single entry once, well, it certainly changes things a lot. And there it goes. Real fast before we lose it. Live and play. Prize structure, though. 50,000 at the top. And so look at the percentages of where you need to win. Basically, you'll get not even double your money back. You'll get double your money if you're in the top 15,000. So the top 11% of this GPP or so, double. You can get double up, guys, at 45% odds, just playing a single entry double up game. So that's why we spread and hedge our bets and we have a cash game. But for a GPP, of course, there's no way you're going to ever win the 50 if you don't play it. So I understand you run a 1 or 2 shots, and sometimes we do land high. You get 25, $30 out of it. But the structuring is so tiered, you have to view these things as lottery tickets. Really, they are. They're almost a waste of money every time you play. They must be backed up, even on a GPP spread, with your other stuff. And now we're going to have to go into scoring because it's live. Okay, so the quintuples obviously pay far more. And then, let's see here. Okay, well, we've gone through the contest, the structuring, and so I only have 1 entry in a shot, a couple of the single entries, the cheap ones. Every now and then I'll play a good, a more expensive one. I played a $10 single entry GPP yesterday as well. I just thought I had an okay line. It barely cashed as well, but this is kind of how you're going to want to play them, guys. You'll do single entries, and you'll do, GPPs. Just don't play against the pros. And if you do it for the smallest amount. And back yourself up with quintuples and double ups and things like that. That's the contest to enter. Now, building the lineup itself is a little bit more interesting. So my GPP lineup for today was a little bit different than what I showed on the video. You'll see this. This is the entry that I updated in the comments earlier from the video earlier today. I had a little bit of a different lineup initially when I posted this, and we got some news at the last minute, and I had to pull Dudley down there at the bottom for Phoenix. It was just a little too much Phoenix running with Devin Booker coming back. So took Dragic and Teague. You got Harden, you got Richardson, you got Durant, you got Robinson, you got Len, Young, and Horford. Let's check their percentages. Dragic was 12.6% owned. That's about roundabout on an 8-game slate. Teague, 42% owned. He's definitely a chalk play today, no question. People are on Teague. Harden, we won't know until 7:30. Richardson coming in at almost 22% value. People identified that he was getting a lot of extra time with Winslow out, and they jumped on it. They didn't pair him with Dragic today, and I think that might have been a mistake, but we shall see. Durant coming in at 35% ownership. People probably just had a way to spend up, is what I'm thinking. Robinson coming in at 51% ownership. Guys, if you could tell me when I say just take it and run because he's going to get the minutes and you have to take a value, that's why they do it. That's mind-boggling, 51% for a minimum value player. Len came in at 19.2. That's roundabout-ish, but a little high. Young came in at 38.5%. So people were on Thad Young today like flies on garbage. And Al Horford, still don't have a price on him yet, but let's check the other slate. So John Wall came in at 48% ownership on the point guard at the high end. And do we have Whiteside's numbers at the bottom? We do. Whiteside came in at 28.6%. Now, I would hazard a bet that getting all those players together is difficult and properly doing it. But Robinson opened up a lot of value for people. Joe Johnson was 16.2% owned. Wow. These ownership numbers are pretty intense to look at. Brad Beal came in at 33%. Even my tournament line was slightly chalky because a lot of these people were identified values ahead of time. Now, okay, so these are identified values ahead of time. How do I know to do them? Well, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to pinpoint games with faster paces, but more particularly with the GPP, the upside. I need the upside, guys. So let's look through this lineup and just say, what if? Let's say that Phoenix-Washington game is, 120-110. Or, let's say it goes overtime and 124-121 or something cool. That's really great for, fantasy. Well, John Wall is probably going to put up 55, 60 points, right? Teague, down there at the bottom, let's say he just has a run-of-the-mill 40 today instead of another 58 that he ran yesterday. Actually, 58 is very high. I'm not expecting 50s at all. It was overtime game too. But if he ran us up to 40, that would be perfect. I mean, you're looking at about 100 points for your point guard positions. Done. Harden, the guy can always give you 60. Take it. Be happy. We're talking about ceilings, guys. Like, what can they realistically do? Like, if I told you Brad Beal was going to give me 70 points, you'd be like, no, he's not. But if I told you Brad Beal could give me 40 points against Phoenix, fast-paced, when the whole offense for the Wizards is Wall and Beal, that becomes much more believable. 60 for Harden, 40 for Beal, you got another 100 for your shot guard position. Small forward's been punted. You could have taken Durant here, but if you can get Joe Johnson at $4,400 in price, paying you $4,100, and he gives you 27 fantasy points, which is what he ran his last game, somewhere around there, anything like that, you're fine, 25 points. Robinson, same kind of deal. There's a reason why 51% ownership. He had 37 fantasy points or something in the last one, which was just crazy value at minimum, but, with the start and with the minutes, so he gives you 20, 25. Let's say you get 50 points out of the whole small forward position. Move on, you're at 250. Power forward, I mean, it could spike to 30 and 30, that, but we'll just 250. Len, we've all seen his ceilings. They used to be 50. It's a different team. Let's just say it's 40. Thad Young, he gave us just about 40 the other day, and now with Miles Turner out, it's just up to him and Teague. Let's say that game goes your way too, and you pull another clean 80 points out of the power forward position. Okay, I've added it up for you guys already. We're at 250 with small forwards. Now we're at 330 with the power forwards. Add on Whiteside. the man could drop 60, no problem. And then you're looking at a 390 lineup. That is a GPP lineup because it has ceiling. It has potential to get higher. Versus a cash lineup where, and granted the ceilings are there, but Dragic doesn't have 60-point upside. But is he going to drop to like almost nothing today? No, he's not. He's probably going to give you a nice solid 30-point floor. Teague is going to give you a solid 35 points today, 65. Harden will give you a solid 50 points today, 115. We're going through floors now, guys. Richardson will give you a solid 25 points. You're at 140 now. Durant will give you a solid 50 points, maybe even just 45. 185. Robinson will give you 25 points. That's pretty solid with his minute run. 290, 190, 210. Len will give you 25 minutes pretty solid. That's 235. Young will give you another 25 points solid. That's going to get you to 260. Now Horford is a question mark, but I'm going to tell you guys he's solid for a floor of 30 points, which means that your cash game lineup is at 290. Now most days that's enough to cash, but especially when you consider there's always a little bit of upside. I just basically gave floors for all these people. So if any exhibit any kind of upside whatsoever, you're at your 300 score that you need to win, in general, on most nights. This is the difference between a cash lineup and a GPP lineup. You identify when you run through a cash lineup the players' floors. You don't look at their ceilings. On a GPP lineup, you look at their ceilings instead, and you recognize that their floors are much lower. Let's see what the floor comes out for this. 40 points for Wall as a floor. 35 for Teague as a floor. We're at 75. 50 for Harden as a floor. We're at 125. 20 for Beal. We're at 145. 20 for Johnson. We're at 165. 25 for Robinson. We're at 170, 190. Len, 25 points as a floor, along with Young, another 25 points for floor. You're at 240. And Whiteside, well, he'll give you 40 or 45 points for sure as a floor. That's a floor of about 280, 285 maybe. Now, you don't think those 10 points are a lot when you're calculating these things out and you're making the lineups but it actually is. It makes a huge difference on how much these scores are, and I'm going to prove it right now. Let's go look at the history on what we just did yesterday. I'm going to review the scores a little bit more from yesterday in particular. Yesterday, I didn't do a lineup because I felt it was a GPP line. I told you guys that I'm only going to do lineups on days that I feel that a cash line can be given, and I do my best to update those, tweet them out. I did, and I'll keep everyone updated. But this was my GPP lineup for yesterday. And you can see from a 333.6 score, you'd be like, well, they didn't cash all the places. Not everywhere. You'd think that's a really good score, right? It wasn't. So, let's go into it and examine why. Let's go into a double up, a $5 one. Now, if you scroll through here, first thing you're going to see is you'll see there's some duplication of lineups. What happens is we have lineup providers now, guys, and they offer up lineups to people and they sell them. And what happens is when you see something like this, 21, 352.4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and you can just count through all the way. There were 26 different people with that exact same lineup. So that was a very popular lineup to give out for cash. Somebody handed out a wonderful lineup, and it flooded the market, and you basically had to compete with that. If that lineup didn't exist, this would have been much higher, but that lineup did exist. We live in reality here. We don't live in some fantasy world. So to win, you needed to be at 329. I had 333.6. So you guys can do the math there. 0.9 to get up to 330, and then another, so 4.5 points. What is that exactly, guys? 3 assists, 1 assist and a 3-pointer, and I lose, or I'm on the edge of winning, right? So it's very, very critical, to get a few extra points when you work about cash games, when you work on quintuples. Look at the big quintuple up. Let's go down to the cashing line. It paid out at 338.9 basically in a big quintuple up. Now there's a reason why I paid to play the big one. When you play the big one, there's still more cushioning even with the multi-entries than with the single. Well, let's go into the single quintuple up where I played 2 entries. And we'll scroll down there. Cashing line was 351. Yeah, well, 12 points higher to win the single entry quintuple, because it's not really a single entry quintuple up when you look at it. You can enter it more than once, which is exactly why I was trying to prove my point with. They don't really offer a quintuple up that's single entry. You're forced to be a multi-entry. So if you're going to have to be forced into a multi-entry to play a quintuple up, play the big one. Get the cushioning. Otherwise, if it's single entry, you play the single entry double ups like I'm showing in here, you know. That's your cash game strategy. Other than that, though, play single entry GPPs. The more higher dollar ones can have better cashing lines. So 333.6, cashing was 332. I made it by 1.6 points. That's not even the 2-point bucket. The dribbler, cashing line was 333.6. No, it wasn't. Cashing line was 320.3. Okay, it was substantially lower, a dozen points lower for the cheaper entry, the single entry one. Same thing with the SWAT, I believe. 315.9, much lower cashing line. Now, look at that. The clients for cashing the GPP were actually lower than they were for winning cash games yesterday. Now, the reason why that comes to be is because cash game lineups, sometimes their floors come out with higher ceilings, and people are also cognizant of, you know, the proper ways, like I was showing you, of who is a cash game player and who is a GPP player, who is more of a lottery ticket. You'll find this is common, this is done a lot, and there's not much else to say about it. I mean, just kind of have to learn, and don't try to think of players as they're going to get 45 fantasy points. Try to think of John Wall as he can score 40 to 70 fantasy points on a given night. That's a much better way to typify him. Guys that have a nice big range, and then there's guys that are steady Eddie and will always give you between 35 and 45 fantasy points every single time. Guys like IT come to mind. Okay. That's it for GPP lineup construction. Like I've said, on any given day. And let me go back to the last basic thing when you build these lineups. Going into my live scores here. Now back to my GPP score. Oh, well, yeah, look at that. We're winning something. It says we're winning something. Hooray. We're not winning the, you know, quintuples, but that's good enough for now. I'll take these other little things, whatever they are. Anyways, go to my entries. Now when I'm building them, remember to get those values. Lock them first. Lock in the Robinson value first when you start building your lineup. Lock in anyone that's super cheap that you know is just going to get the minute run, and like Teague would have been a lock for me too today, regardless of what's going on with it. Wall is looking good already too, but you know, it's the beginning, so we'll see how this goes, but you never know exactly how things work. Whiteside's starting out strong too, pretty. Anyways, but Johnson's got nothing, Beal's got nothing. Might be sitting. Well, Beal was definitely playing, but Johnson could be sitting. Regardless, I'm going to let these lineups play out, and remember to lock your minimum values. Build your lineup around the studs the rest of the way that have great matchups around them. And that should do it for Fantasy Forecast, or GPP lineup construction for today. It says I'm winning $95 right now. We'll see how that goes. But the big thing is when you win your quins. When that says you're winning $50, that's when you're a happy, happy man. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this special edition of Fantasy Forecast GPP lineup construction. Please leave me comments in the description if you have questions about things. Not specific to players, specific to like actually lineup building and contests and stuff like that, and I'll be happy to answer those questions because it's a special video. If you want to talk about players, wait for the daily videos. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. It helps support this free channel, and you know, watch the ads because that's the only way I make the money to keep on playing for you guys, and you know, it happens. All right, thanks again so much. I really appreciate your guys' time and attention. Have a great, great day, night, whatever time, wherever you are. I want you to go out there and go win some big money.